All right. Welcome back, everybody, to Clearwater Jazz Holiday Foundation's Young Lions Jazz Master Virtual Sessions. Pat Close, how you doing, my friend?
Great, thanks. How are you?
We're doing well. Thanks for being back with us, Pat. You've got a topic today that you're calling Studio Drumming Setup and Tools, Part 1. Studio Drumming Setup and Tools, Part 1. Really looking forward to this one. We've got everybody muted that's participating today for the courtesy of the session. But if there are questions, I'll make sure to get those to Pat at the end of the session. And if you have questions or feedback, you know how to reach us at info@clearwaterjazz.com. We thank all of our wonderful sponsors for these helping to expand the reach of these Young Lions Jazz Master virtual sessions, including our friends at the Al Downing Tampa Bay Jazz Association. And check out these incredible resources online. We've got this new web page called The Studio, which houses all of the past video sessions. We have a podcast called the Young Lions Jazz Master Virtual Sessions Podcast. The Studio is brought to you by Blue Water Wealth Management at Steward Partners. And the podcast is brought to you by Marine Max Clearwater. So if you can't get to one of the live sessions, check out these resources. They're really, really great. Let me tell you a little bit about Pat. I'm going to turn it over to Pat for today's session. Pat is a drummer, composer, teacher. He's a professional studio and live freelance drummer. 5 decades of drumming under his belt. He brings a wealth of experience and professionalism to everything he does. He has studied all phases of technique and all styles of drumming and has worked with a variety of different producers, arrangers, and writers, mastering the art of playing. In addition to this vast performance experience, which has taken him all over and has paired him with some really, really great players, Pat has done numerous recordings and television commercials. He also had the honor of opening the 25th anniversary Clearwater Jazz Holiday Music Festival and performed in 2012 with his own band, The Groove. Pat has been a fixture as part of our Clearwater Jazz Holiday Outreach after-party band and always helping to deliver that one-of-a-kind, exciting atmosphere at our events. Also, be sure to check out his CD entitled Rhythms of My Soul, released in January 2017, which he recorded and produced. His official website is patcloselive.com. And if you would like to get in touch with Pat, check him out on social media or email him at patclose@live.com. All right, Pat, welcome back to Clearwater Jazz Holiday's Young Lions Jazz Master Virtual Sessions. The stage is all yours, my friend.
Thank you. Great to be here. Hope everybody's doing well today. Today I'm going to be talking about my studio, which I'm here in my recording studio, my home recording studio. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about, there's so much, probably going to be part 1, part 2, maybe part 3. Because, you know, you have to start with, for those, some of this, you may know this, but a lot of the younger guys, the young lions, you know, that are up and coming drummers, there's so much to know that I've learned just by doing it. For example, from the beginning of being in bands and miking my own drums. Okay, so buying microphones, buying cables, learning from experienced older musicians that knew what they were doing and guiding me, and learning on my own, trial and error. And I'm still learning. I have a lot going on here, a lot of technology that I'm still, you know, I have a handle on most of it, but I'm going to switch over to my other seat over there behind the kit and tell you a little bit more. There's various types of microphones. There's cardioid microphones, cardioid, which is like a SM57 mic, which picks up, like, there's one in each one of my drums. So it's picking up each individual, drum in itself. That's a cardioid pattern. It picks up better. It has a pretty much flat response frequency and picks up right that drum. Versus a condenser mic, which is this type of mic and this type of mic that I'm speaking into right now, is it's a more powerful mic and has more dynamic range. Like I could, if I just go like this, this microphone, if I go, this microphone's going to pick that up very far away, okay? And it has to be powered because it's a more powerful mic. So in your mixer, it's called phantom power. So you have to have that switch on for these mics to work, or these mics will not work. Your regular microphones don't need phantom power. So there's that. Condenser mics pick up more. They have a boosted frequency range, meaning this hi-hat mic over here could very well be picking up something over here, and it will. And these overhead mics are made for picking up the overhead sounds over the room versus just the drum itself, okay? And so these are great microphones you have to have them, and this is individually mic'd. The hi-hat cymbal has its own condenser mic, okay? Also being picked up by this powerful mic, which is also needs to be there for what? Crash, cymbals. So this microphone would not, if my bass drum itself was not mic'd from the front and triggered, this mic would not be picking up this. It's mic'd itself, okay, into a mixer. So let's talk about that mic. Different type of mic. It's an AKG D112, specifically made for a bass drum. And I'll show you that later. But why? Because the size of the diaphragm, as you can see, this mic has like an inch, 3/4 of an inch microphone in it, diaphragm in it. So a bass drum, they made it with a bigger diaphragm because when you hit this beater, that microphone's in the front of that drum, and there's air hitting that. Bam! You could literally put your hand in front of the drum and feel air hitting it. So you want a bigger microphone, which was also EQ'd frequency range wise to pick up more lows, okay? So it's the microphone itself with a bigger diaphragm so it doesn't distort. Nowadays, guys are using those bigger diaphragm microphones on floor toms because it's also a low drum. This drum needs to be tuned because they sit here and as you play them, sometimes they loosen. Drum tuning is a whole other very important aspect of studio drumming because you can't really have an open live kit for volume for playing live and then put a microphone on it, right? Because the mics, this is a saying I came up with when people say, well, why doesn't he recorded my drums but they don't sound good. What's wrong with that guy? I mean, he doesn't know what he's doing. I mean, he didn't put enough, you know, the toms were bang and the snare didn't sound good. And well, my saying to that is the mic doesn't lie. You know, the microphone picks up, you know, exactly what your drum is sounding like, okay? Now this drum right now would actually sound way better with the snare drum actual mic on. It is getting picked up through other mics on the drum kit, but this mic is not on right now. That's where the juice comes in. That's where the meat comes in. Now you can take this one microphone and play with the tone. You can put low end on it. Maybe it's got too much crack on it, so too much highs. Turn the highs down. Now we're talking about mixing drums, which is that's going to be probably in part 2. But to start with, you know, just to talk a little bit about the studio drumming and the mic, to start from the beginning. My suggestion is to learn gear. You know, you should have a little mixer. You should start miking your drums for your little YouTube videos. You know, because drummers are putting these videos out. I see a lot of them, and a lot of them sound really good, you know? And then you come across a lot more so that it's like you're just using obviously an iPhone or your phone camera video, and when you're hitting drums, it's just going, it's distorted. So I'm really trying to get drummers, to my friends, and for this purpose, this session video out there, to get drummers to really start paying attention to what they sound like. You know, you're a great player. Let's say, as I did when I was a young kid, I worked all these years, 10 years, on learning to play the drums. Technique, reading, playing out, you know, making money, you know, the whole, you know, being in bands. Always about drumming, always about playing the drums. Until the first time I went into a recording studio with the band I was in, and I'll never forget it, because we had been playing these songs out live, you know, we were a tight band, and it was you know, we went in the studio. All of a sudden, this is my first time in a recording studio, except for the time I was on TV when I was a little kid, and they slopped headphones on me, and I was sweating and nervous, and was 8 years old. I didn't know what I was doing, but that's all experience, you know, that you get. So the first time I went in with a band and recorded, drum check time. Set your drums up in a recording studio. Guy puts all these microphones up like you're seeing right now. You know, you get done setting up, you know, you're feeling comfortable, you know, with your setup. You have the engineer, the guy in the other room saying, okay, let's hear your kick drum, you know, and you have headphones on, you know, because that's the only way you can communicate with someone else, because everything has to be soundproofed and quiet and acoustically set up. Like my room is acoustically set up, whole nother subject. But when you get these headphones on and you're in your first recording session, you don't know, you know, the guys, for 5 minutes, you're going to sit there and go, while he checks each individual microphone, bass drum. So he dials it in, you know, snare drum. So you're hitting it, play it hard as you're going to hit it. You hear that kind of stuff, you know. So they want to get the level so it's not distorted. And when you start recording, you're going to play like that, because the levels will change and everything will spike and distort, go in the red. That process takes a while. So you've already been there. You're like, you're hitting your drums. Now he's like, okay, play the whole kit. That comes next. So you're playing everything together, stuff like that. So he gets a full mix of the drums. Great. Cool. Now, okay, let's hear the bass. Let's hear the guitar. Let's hear so you're sitting there. Everybody's doing a sound check, basically. But that's studio stuff when you recording with others at the same time, which was my first experience, which we're talking about. So everybody gets their stuff checked out. All right, play the song. Let's hear a little bit of the songs. Count it off, play. Okay, sounds good. Now, what you have to contend with as well is your headphones. I can't hear the bass. Turn him up. Bass, his drums are too loud. Turn them down. Whatever. So you start talking about mixing all of these instruments and microphones together in a recording studio. Then comes time to play the song. Count it off. Play. Sounds good. Let's say you make a mistake. Let's say you didn't. Let's say the bass player made a mistake. Well, that's the thing about live recording with other guys at the same time. You have to play it over again. Today, it's a little bit different. I recorded my whole CD. All my drum tracks were done right here with these same microphones in this same room. And I played other people's tracks on my music that I sent them through file sharing, because files are big. You can't just email it. You can, but it has to come back in a file. So guy in LA, the guy in Ohio, guy in New York, play on my song, they send me it back, okay? I can then drop it in to my software, which we'll talk about, studio software, which is basically a recording studio with a mixer in it. You have your mixer, which we'll talk about next. And then you play. It's all in there. You drop. It's basically, you could record with someone anywhere in the world. They can send you their part. Then there they are. You're playing with them, their part. It's great. The technology is unreal. It's all digital information is what it is. The computer doesn't see that as a microphone. The microphone has to be transformed into a digital signal, blip or a sample or a sound bite that shows up. So that shows up as just digital information to a computer, and it reads it and it picks it up exactly how it sounds. So those are the types of microphones I urge you to, as a young drummer, and even as a guy that's been playing all those years, who just worked on his drumming, doesn't know anything about getting his drums to sound good. Maybe he knows how to tune them good, and maybe he doesn't. There's different types of, like this drum would sound not so good if it weren't tuned really well, with a lot of tone to it. So, and once again, that microphone doesn't lie. Now, once you get that, drums are ringy, basically. It's a lot of tone if you don't have the heads tuned properly. The head must go down on the shell flush. If you're tightening, not knowing by, the same amount of, let's call it torque. When you torque wrench something, like on a car, you set it to 92 pounds of torque. Now, you know that every one of those screws is going to be 92 pounds, okay? And they make a torque wrench type deal, I believe, for drums. Well, I like to do it by feel, because you got to think about, drum heads are not perfect. the shell might be a little warped, you know. So if you go 90, 90, 90, 90 with a torque wrench and the drum heads and the drum shell's a little weird, that's not going to fly. So you gotta, you know, you gotta like, and you can maybe hear that pitch. Normally you would not want that one lower, but you want one lower. It's called detuning it, because if you bring that one up, then the drum's going to have more resonance and ring, which you love for live playing. Okay, studio, different story. We can detune that. They make these really cool things called gel pads. They're little blue sticky things. It really gives it tone. Instead of that, it's okay. So yes, and those types of things, and this type of thing. So you got this drum. This is a great example. Great for live. You know, big, right? For other to fight with, not fight with, but to compete with other stage volumes and things like that, and just to have a nice big open sound. Here's a little trick. I made this one myself. You can buy these, and they're just called drum tonal rings. And what they do is it's made out of a piece of drum head. So I took an old drum head and I just cut it. I put something on top of it and I cut it to the, like, I don't know, 1.5 inches, you know, diameter all the way around from an old drum head. Obviously, if you're going to do it for a smaller time, you need a smaller drum head, and you cut the ring out of the old drum head. You can make these yourself. So what's cool about these is that, once again, live. Now, that really wouldn't sound really great mic'd in the recording studio. You have to do a lot of work on that, because after you hit that, I'm still hearing it, you know, after I hit it, which sounds great. But if all your drums sound like that and they're not muffled, basically these muffle the drums. You have to start with in studio drumming, you have to start with your drums. You know, I just wanted to talk a little bit about microphones to begin with, but it all starts with the drum itself, the drum sound, which is, people say, man, you got a great drum sound, or your snare drum sounds great, or you might hear your snare drum sounds like so. And so a lot of that comes through experience, knowing how to tune a drum. Tension a drum is what I like to say. Not so much tune it. Yeah, there's a pitch. You can go after a note, but you're basically tensioning that head, tensioning it evenly across. So this, you could buy these things, are very cool. And I don't know if you can really tell what that does. But man, that sounds great now to me. It's like, it's just all tone. Yes, it has some sustain, so sustain longer. So if you want to put a gel thing on it as well, it'll shorten that even more. Tuning it, types of drum heads. Let's go there. Like different drum manufacturers. Two most popular, there's a lot of popular ones, Remo, Evans, Aquarian, to name a few. I'm a Remo guy, pretty much have been. So Remo heads are definitely on all my snare drums. And it's a certain head, it's a controlled sound head. It has a dot enforced in the middle of it, underneath it, which muffles the head. And I have another device on here, another gel sticky thing that placed in a certain spot and tuned. Otherwise, you're going to get drum heads. Tom heads may be different thicknesses of heads. Like these are emperors, which means It's a 2-ply head. Some guys like single-ply heads, which is great on certain what? Drums. Let's talk about drums again. The shell of the drum. What type of shell? What's the wood and the depth of the drum? These are birch wood, which are great for recording drums. This snare drum is a maple, bird's eye maple, custom made for me, which is a very adaptive, cool drum because I can tune this many different ways. I can have it funky and tight. I can lower it down. Like this drum here is a smaller drum. This is a 10-inch drum, snare drum. No muffling on this one. No sound deadening on this drum. Sounds great. Records great. These drums are tweaked for the studio. They don't leave this studio. They've been on numerous recordings, not only mine, but other people send me tracks to play on their music as well, and I use this drum setup. They're always very happy with my sound. A lot goes into that sound. Maple shells drums, birch shell drums, great. And there's also variations. Companies make mahogany shells, birch and mahogany. You know, all great. So the cheaper the shell, the cheaper not cheaper the sound. You have to get good heads on them and really know how to tune them well to get a good sound from them. You use those more for live, but when you record, you want the best quality of drum and tune it well. Can you make this drum sound not so good? Absolutely. If you don't know how to tune it right, the mic doesn't lie. And I've had that happen to this exact drum, where I call it, the drum needs a doctor. You know, it's sick. The drum was sick. I just couldn't get it. I didn't know what was going on with that. It was ringy. It just sounded like terrible. I'm like, what? So I ended up finding out that I totally took the head off of the drum and I have extra drum heads, and I slapped a new coated white head on it and tuned it up, and bam, there it is. As soon as I tensioned it up, it sounded like that. Wow. So, you know, all it was a drum head change. So there's that. Getting your drums to sound good. Watch YouTube videos on drum tuning. A lot of them are pretty right on, you know, and you can learn by tensioning and cross tensioning. You know, you don't want to just go around the drum like this and turn each screw, lug, tension until you think it's because the drum head's going on like this, not like this, flat. Initially, to tension it, just to get it started, yes, you go around with thumb tighten each tension screw on the rim, okay? Then you cross tune it, like you go across from each lug. So you would start on this one, then you go across from it, to the left of that, right across, bottom, and then top. But crisscross your tunings, little turns to tension it down right. To me, you know what? You could have the best microphones in the world. You could have this great software. You could have an unbelievable thousands of dollars mixer. But man, if that drum doesn't sound good out of the gate, you can't make it sound good. I mean, that's what they call doctor it up, you know? Yeah, you can, but why? Why not just have it sound really good, you know, out of the gate? And then that's all the difference in the world. So, so we've covered types of microphones, drum heads, drum shell. Now, let's talk about, so I told you you could experiment with buying microphones and a good audio interface unit, which is crucial to, and a mixer, a little mixer, so that when you make a little YouTube video, you guys, all you need is this one microphone and maybe another microphone in front of your floor, in front of your bass drum, into your mixer. Your mixer goes into your phone. So when you go to camera, video, hit record, you're going to get this great sound, not from your drum, not from your phone microphone, but from, you know, your microphones now, your good microphones. So I would suggest buying a Shure, you know, the state-of-the-art microphone for snare drums and has been, and it's affordable. It's a Shure SM57. You see this microphone on, you know, virtually, I'd say 90%, you know. There's a lot of great other good microphones out there for snare drums, definitely, you know, no doubt. But it's funny that still the $99 microphone that you could get online, Sam Ash, Musician's Friend, those types of places, is still, you look at pictures of drums in recording studios, pictures of drummers live, you know, even the best drummers in the world, you're going to see this, pretty much this microphone on the snare drum. I use them on my toms too, but it's just the go-to all-around great microphone. A good cable. Now, I'm going to jump back over there for a second and go on my camera and try to reverse the camera so that I can show you a little bit more about the next step. There's the mics we talked about. Condenser mic, condenser. There's the SM57, better look at it. This is important, the angle of which the microphone is on the drum, where those mics are pointing, okay? That's important. But let's first talk about what normally happens from the microphones, okay? The microphones, every microphone on this drum kit is neatly organized, that's as neat as I can get it, into what they call a snake, okay? So I have eight microphones, probably more like 10 eventually on this kit, but 8 to start covers this kit really well. So you have, there's the AKG D112, which is miking the front of this inside. Actually, I placed it half in, so you can see the microphone. There's the AKG, state-of-the-art, one of the best microphones made for bass drums, made for a bass drum. So I like to place that half inside, and then once again, this is a different setup. I have 2 holes in my bass drum. That's called a kick port. It's another hole. And then inside, I have a towel in there. Okay. And I left out the bass drum head, which is a different type of head. It's an Evans head. Okay. And it's made more for lower frequencies like bass drums. Okay. So now let's talk about all these cables, these microphone cables, routed, okay, in this little snake I made, you know, all nicely put together, pretty much. They go to your main mixer, okay? Now we're talking about getting into what happens actually in a recording studio. So I have 8 channels here, kick, snare, hi-hat, tom, overhead. I have a drum machine hooked up in there. I have another module hooked up in there. There's 8 channels into the mixer. Now, what happens next? Your mixer, this is where I get what the digital information I was talking about goes USB, because obviously computer we know is USB. Now we just changed live real instruments through microphones into digital information right here. Okay, it goes, your mixer's into this. Now this is an old Mac, but it's still the best, in my opinion, machine for recording. A lot of guys use laptops. A lot of guys use the Mac Mini, which is a smaller unit, but 16 gigabyte, powerful. Okay, so microphones went into there. Now we turned it into digital information to what? Because the software that I'm recording from is obviously in the computer. What happens then is that you control that, from here. And that was just a little loop. I'm not sure I have that audio hooked up correctly at this point, but I'll get that together too. So let's talk about this. There's that digital information I was talking about down in here. And so over here, you have the same thing that you have over there. That you're not using that mixer for volume. You're just using that for inputs, to get the microphone to here. All you're adjusting is here you have channels, the same thing. You have 8 channels right here. Same 8 channels, kick, snare, overheads, hi-hat, high tom, mid tom, low tom. Okay? That's your little bit about how your drums get to your home studio software. Okay? Other types of microphones, AKGs, Audio-Technicas, great microphones. So basically that's what's happening here with the drums as far as types of mics, types of heads, types of shell, tuning tips a little bit, and how they're set up with the different types of microphones. Now, I happen to be running back here for a Zoom, exactly what I'm trying to get drummers to do. I'm trying to get these guys to go from this this audio interface, which I'm holding actually. So your phone goes into your audio interface. It's called iRig Stream. Okay, your phone is here. Okay, from the phone it goes these red and black into your mixer. Okay, and so now anything plugged into your mixer, your microphones from your overhead and your bass drum mic are in your mixer, adjustable, channel 1, channel 2. Okay, it's not that hard. You can see how simple that is. You have this goes to that, your microphones go into the mixer. That's it. And what a difference, that that sound makes actually, So that's what we're talking about as far as a basic setup. This is another thing that's, this is a whole nother thing that my drums are being picked up from this Yamaha EAD. If you want to look that up on YouTube, Yamaha EAD. That thing I just talked about, the Yamaha EAD, is running to the mixer as well. There's a unit on top of here. What you're hearing right now is this unit picking it up. So this is advanced additional stuff that over the years, I've always triggered drums, sampled, triggered sounds. There's all that advanced technology, which I've learned, still learning about. I love it. It's great. It's fun. And it gives me another tool, which was the name of today's class, drum recording tips and studio drumming tools. It gives you another tool. You know, as a studio drummer, you know, when I first became a studio drummer up in Cleveland, I went there and more learning experience. I would play to a song I never heard before, perhaps, or they'd put music in front of you, like sight read this, which is another point. As a studio drummer, make sure you can read a little. You don't have to be this awesome, great reader unless you're trying out for something you need to be an awesome, great reader at. Difficult stuff. But a good example is a friend of mine, great drummer, by the way. I'm not going to really mention his name, but he was touring with a lot of great national out there, touring, and a great drummer, great ears. And, you know, getting hired because he was an awesome drummer, touring live. Then he called me, he says, man, this new thing I'm doing, I got to go and we don't have time to rehearse because you played everything by ear. What an amazing ear he has. And he says, but we don't have time to rehearse, so we're going to record, we're going to do this on the show tomorrow. And because we're traveling, but they had a chart, you know, da, 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 for some guys, because if you can't read, it's basically telling you how to get from Clearwater to Tampa without, oh, it's on 43rd Street. Be there tomorrow at 2. That's it. A chart tells you the address, the quickest route, the estimated ETA, time of arrival. You know, we had that technology. But what I'm referring to is knowing how to read a roadmap, basically, of what the other musicians want you to play. So I gave this guy a crash course, a great 1-hour lesson, and actually two hours lesson at one time. And I wrote out all the symbols, you know, not symbols, the symbols of musical notation. Like, for example, repeat a section. First, second, repeat it, and then go here, and then go on to the B section. It's basically reading the arrangement of the song. It's theory, basically, and arrangement. Go through the B section. Go on to C. Now you see something called a coda, which means at some point you're going to go back, go to that coda, skip that part, and go to the end to go out of the song. Without knowing that, could he hear that? Yes. Definitely he could hear that. He would be able to hear that and memorize it. That's how good this guy is. And so, but he was like panicking but tomorrow I have to read what I'm to play. Okay. Great lesson for him in his drumming career. He's a younger guy to have under his belt. So I gave him a great 2-hour lesson. I explained to him what to watch for, how to prepare for that. I gave him we worked on some reading, some actual charts, while he played along with a song that I had to chart for, which was great. And then so we could pull the song up on YouTube, let's say. He had the music to the song, like the chart. He could play his beat. Then he could follow it exactly through the song. There it is. Turn left, basically on I-95. Stay on that for 2 miles. Get off at exit 37. Okay, that's what the roadmap, that's what a chart does. Without it, you have no clue where the song is going in a recording studio setting or at a rehearsal for that matter. So learn some basic reading not basic, even get into it more. And as well, I do teach that. Right now I do virtual sessions of reading music, of technique, whatever it is you need. But today was a little bit about recording. Next time, I think, I'm not sure where we're at with time, but next time I think what I'd like to do is what I will do is play along with, I'll give you an actual example of me playing with a recorded song, you know, something that you'll have to do. The drums will not be there for you to copy. You have to play your part while hearing, you know, everything in your headphone mix. Headphones, different types of headphones, old standby standards, the old fashioned, which are still good, you know, but I prefer my custom in-ear built, custom molded to my ear. I just like them better. They're more comfortable. They fit right in. They sound great. They make them with bigger drivers, more drivers for low end, for bass drums that won't distort. That's the one thing I don't like about those other headphones, unless they're DJ headphones, which handle more bass. So in-ears are the way to go, in my opinion. Learn, you know, get some good quality earbuds. I think Bose makes some really good ones, but I think you want to step up to like Shure, I think makes a good more affordable one, because these aren't cheap. You know, the better they are, the obviously, just like anything, more expensive they are. So once again, to recap, drums, tuning, get yourself a couple microphones, you know, experiment, get a mixer. If you want a one-on-one class with me, you can reach me at patclose@live.com is my email, or patcloselive is my website. And once again, next time I'll play something for you guys. You have to start from the beginning. You have to get this stuff down. I hope I covered a lot of it, from the drum kit, microphones, drum heads.
Thanks so much, Pat. It's always a pleasure having you. Really, really informative stuff. And we're already looking forward to getting some more sessions scheduled with you. And you just really add something special to this whole mix. So for those of you that are watching and will watch in the future, on behalf of the Clearwater Jazz Holiday Foundation, we want to thank Pat for participating with us, and we want to thank all of the sponsors that help to make these sessions possible and free for everyone to access. So Pat, until next time, thanks again, my friend, and everybody else out there, stay safe, be well, keep playing.
Yes.
We'll see you all soon.
See you next time.